How are you?
I'm good. It's Easter. We're filming this on the Easter weekend, so
Yeah.
I've just been chilling really. I went for brunch yesterday, with Sheldon, and it was really nice. I dress in white because every Easter is like a little tradition for me to like dress in white.
Oh, is it? That's
Yeah.
cute.
And we went to this place in Totterdown.
Okay.
Like a cafe. It was really nice.
Hmm.
But I'm starting to realise a lot of these places are trying to experiment with the type of food that they put out.
Why?
So I had French toast. As soon as we saw the menu, French toast with blood oranges, like Greek yogurt, whatever. I was like, yes, I'm having French toast. But then I saw the menu sauerkraut and ricotta pancakes.
Sauerkraut and ricotta?
Yeah.
That's pungent. I'm German. I know what sauerkraut is.
So I was just like, why can't you just be traditional and stick? If it's not broke, don't try and fix it, you know? Lemon and sugar is fine enough. So I was like, these types of like places, they're trying to do experimental things. I'm not into that. I just like original, simple things.
Probably trying to do like, oh, gut friendly, healthy.
I did have a kombucha.
Yeah.
And she was like, what's that? What's a kombucha? I was like, it's a thing.
There is good kombucha and then there's bad kombucha. I've experienced. So the bad kombucha essentially tastes like you're drinking flavoured vinegar water. Like apple cider vinegar water. That's like with
so
an extra
what is
savor.
Good kombucha then? Good
kombucha ends up tasting like just like a soda or something because it's the natural fizziness of the fermentation. And then if it's like good flavors of the tea and stuff, you don't realize it's fermented. But
it's not actually bad for you if you're tasting the vinegar. I think they just over ferment it because you're saying good kombucha, bad kombucha. I'm seeing it as more of a health perspective.
No. I'm talking about taste wise.
Okay, yeah.
I'm talking about taste wise.
I don't know if you would like mine did taste a little bit vinegary, but I'm fine with that.
It depends. It depends the amount of how it tastes. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes I've had kombucha was like, okay, I want to drink something that feels like a little bit sweet, but trying to err on the healthier side. Mm-hmm. So it's not like just sugary stuff. Pick up a kombucha because I know it's good for your gut health and stuff. And then I bought one and it was just like, it was painful to drink. And it felt like I might as well just picked up apple cider vinegar in a glass of water and down that. Like that's what it was.
Yeah.
And then there's one brand, I think Sainsbury does it, and their kombucha is like, it's actually delicious, and it like you get the refreshness. It's like it feels like you're drinking like a nice fancy soda, but you know it's not like packed with loads of sugar.
I feel like you have to be careful with those store ones. I'm not saying that one is potentially bad, but I can see them. The shops always try and capitalise on something that's originally good.
No, it's like a small brand that's just ended up in Sainsbury's.
Be careful that they don't change the recipe.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they do that to obviously try and like get more profits. They'll add more sugar, or they won't make it as the original recipe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like a kombucha.
I like a good kombucha. Yeah. But that's cute for the brunch.
How was your the weekend's not even over, but how has your couple of days been?
Yeah, it was nice. Like I slept in yesterday.
I wish I had that. I feel like I just always wake up at 7 and I can never kind of go back to sleep.
I fell back asleep. I was up at 6:30. I got up, went to the bathroom, went back into my bed. I was awake for a little bit. Ended up watching something on YouTube, and then I just nodded off again.
That sounds so nice.
And then I woke up at like 10:30.
I feel like we do kind of need to get back to. I'm someone that's believes to wake up early just to get a good start of the day, but I do feel like we do also somewhat need to go back to waking up at 11 and saying it's fine.
I needed a lie-in though because I had a restless night the night before. On Wednesday evening, I didn't sleep well, and then I had like a full-on day on Thursday because it was like work, and then we were doing stuff, so I didn't get to bed until like really late. So I basically was just catching up on my sleep, But it was really nice. And then my mum was being slow as well, so I didn't have to rush. Woke up, cleaned, and then went to my mum's and just chilled with them for a few hours.
Nice.
I think they just like me being like home because my family, when we do get together, this is how I know we're neurodivergent. We're gonna come on to this topic. We're gonna come into like a segue into our topic today. But literally, like, I feel like if someone put a camera into our house when we're just like all chilling, it's pure madness.
I can imagine.
It's pure madness. Like, we're giggling, we're silly, like, we're all unhinged. And you would think, like, hold on, there's a 50-year-old in here, there's a 30-year-old, and a 15-year-old, and they're all arguing like they're all teenagers.
But I think that's how you
teasers.
can show that you're actually comfortable and like a good family unit. You can just be silly, you can be yourselves, and that's nice to have. Because some people in their families, they feel like they can't actually be themselves, and I couldn't imagine that world. Me and my family, I don't know, I feel like I've got the deeperness out of them a little bit in terms of those conversations, but also we're goofy, we're a little bit geeky, like a little bit nerdy. We like to play Boggle, we go to a board game cafe, we're just silly, you know? And I like that.
No, as our family, I like all of those things, but I think I'm unique in that. In my family isn't a board game.
But is your family's like banterous?
Banter.
Like banter.
Yeah, my family is banter.
Yeah. I wouldn't say our family's that banterous.
No, we're very much banterous. It's a lot of like jokes, teasing, pranks.
I think it's because you've got obviously you and your mum are girl, but then 2 brothers. I think that just shifts the dynamic a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I've got 2 sisters, like we're all female in my family, so it's a female pure energy.
And I think it's because my mum has grown up in a big family and she grew up with brothers and sisters. But I can tell that my mum has always been closer to her brothers than she's been with her sisters.
Interesting.
I think she's more fond of her brothers.
Yeah.
I get the feeling. Like, her sisters are there, but I feel like sometimes in our conversation, her sisters give her more grief than her brothers. Whereas she's just more chill when it comes to her brothers.
I think women can come across a little bit more serious. But I don't like to paint that label because
my mum really is the most unserious, serious
like,
person.
Yeah.
It's really weird. It's like there's such a, I don't know, paradox.
You need to have that balance, though, for sure.
But yeah, so that was nice. I came back, and I didn't come back too late, so I managed to go back to sleep at a reasonable time. So I feel refreshed.
Nice. That's what we like in our 30s.
To
get our sleep.
Like balance, isn't it? Like social, but rest in that.
So I'm looking at these day parties, like, yeah, that sounds good. You know, go to a party at 1 p.m. and then come back at 10, and then you can get your sleep. You know.
When is there a day party?
It's gone. There was one at Lakota yesterday.
Oh, damn it.
But it was raining, and the ticket was £30, and I was just like, it needs to be a nicer weather for me to pay that. Sorry.
Oh, true.
There's always going to be another one. They do a couple over the year.
I feel like there might be one on Monday or something I've seen.
Not at Lakota, but maybe somewhere else.
Somewhere else.
Yeah.
I think there's one on tomorrow as well. Afternoon.
Yeah, bank holiday they always do, like, they always put on lots of events and stuff like that.
Alright, anyways, so I thought we were gonna have a bit of a discussion. I think it's more of a personal one this week.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a discussion that I've been wanting to have for quite a while, because I think through both of our journeys we've discovered quite a lot about ourselves through this topic. I'm going to be talking about neurodivergency and basically what that is, you know. And I think a lot of people have been talking about it online, trying to discover themselves, you know, working out what is this, you know. And I think there's a lot of things that like are still being discovered, and people are kind of working out for themselves. And I think at this moment in time, it's a process for everyone. So when people say, "Oh, I think this is, you know, I think this is a little bit too much," how everyone thinks they've got ADHD, but everyone's just trying to work out, actually, maybe it's a trauma thing, maybe it is ADHD.
Yeah,
they're just trying to work out themselves what actually that is.
That is so true. Because I think a lot of it interlinks as well. Because sometimes when like, because I was going through that journey, just trying to figure out like going on like a healing journey.
When was this?
This was at the very beginning of before I decided to even like look into.
So after COVID.
No. So yes, after COVID. Yeah, it was after COVID. It was after
I would say 2020, 2020. 2022.
Yeah, 2022.
Yeah.
So it was after I've had some therapy, and just even going into therapy and having like a safe space to really talk about some general stuff, and being able to have like someone there that was like independent to help me like process things was really useful, because it was more like counselling therapy. It wasn't
the American therapy, like where it's like they give you tips and you really strategize, and
no,
it was just talking.
It was talking therapy, yeah. So, some people call it also counselling.
Cognitive therapy is the other one.
Yeah, so it's different types. So cognitive behavioural therapy is slightly different, because that's about building tools to change your thought patterns that influence like your behaviour. So that's what it is, cognitive behavioural patterns, so CBT. But that's different. So this one was more like talking, so just talking about things, and having like a safe space and an open space to kind of just bring things that were like on my heart to like really then discuss and then dig deeper. And that was really helpful, and I think made me realise a lot of things about myself, and helped me kind of differentiate between like what was trauma and then what was like actually maybe there's a bit more to this.
Yeah, maybe my brain is wired differently.
And around that time there was lots of stuff happening on social media as well. I don't know if you were bombarded with like...
Yeah. So I had a question. Yeah, how would you... I had a brain block then. How would you describe neurodivergency if someone was like, what is that? Like potentially an older generation, how would you kind of describe it? Because I think I struggle describing what it is. Like I know what it is because I think I'm in that body, but I would struggle describing to someone else what like neurodivergency is in a good way.
So I had to explain this to my mum when I told her that I was diagnosed with ADHD.
Yeah.
So obviously I went down the professional route, touch upon why in a minute. But when I explained that to my very African mother, or anything mental related just doesn't exist.
Yeah, I think the older generation, they generally don't have a clue. Yeah. What this is. We've been told to kind of just get on with things. They've been told, to get on with things and to, not really explore, necessarily who they are, and if you're sensitive, don't be weak, like those types of certain kind of toxic things that have been taught, I guess. So there is an ignorance. Ooh.
Yeah, careful.
Ignorance there.
Yeah. So the way I was trying to, because when I explained it to my mum, I was like, I've gone to the GP, I have got an official diagnosis, I do have ADHD, I told you. Because I touched up with my mum because I had suspected that she had it as well. And which made me then...
How would you tell a parent, I think you've got ADHD or autism,
I think the way it came about was we were just chilling out and I was like talking about it in general terms. I think it was also around like just like my brothers, we were having a general conversation and I was like, I think it's a bit more than that, blah 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 blah. And I was like, you definitely got some of these traits. It was more done in a jokey way.
So through traits?
Through traits, yeah. It was more through traits. Because I realized some of the things that were just normal in our household, like, were very much high indicators of ADHD. And as soon as I started learning more about ADHD, I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense. But then, when I told her, and she didn't understand, oh, what does that mean? Like, I think there was a bit of a fear element because it was a doctor's, like, diagnosis. So I think there's this preconception that she had that it meant, like, oh, it's like a mental disease. And I was trying to, like, I had to explain to her, I was like, Mum, it's not a disease.
And I think that's why I asked, how would you explain it to someone? Because I think a lot of people have a lot of negative assumption, like negative thoughts around neurodivergency, what that is, like, and people say it's kind of like a different wiring with the brain, but then and that's why people think, oh, it's a no. Some people class it as a mental disorder.
Yeah, but that's literally where my mum went to first, and I was like, it's different, like, and I explained to her, it's like, all it means is, like, my brain processes information differently, and, like, what someone else thinks, okay, this is the normal way of doing, the way my brain processes that information is slightly, it's more in a unique way. And sometimes it might take me a lot longer to kind of process it. And I then explained to her, like, the reason why I got this diagnosis is just so that I can communicate it better. It's not about me going on medication or anything. It's for me to be able to explain to people, it's like, actually, the way you're teaching me how to do things, like, that doesn't work for me because I don't understand it in that way. I'm going to have to do it slightly differently. Or I need you to be a bit more patient with me. It might, like, I will get it, but it will take me some time, or I need to try things like a few times and a few different ways for me to get it. So I was just, like, kind of explaining that to her, and she was like, okay. And we didn't go into, like, anything else about it. I think with my mum, it was more about the fear was like, oh, like, another doctor to try and push medication. I think because she's always dealt with, like, a health thing, and I think, like, it's more of, like, the health anxiety that kind of comes through in that.
I think, like, a lot of people with ADHD, autism, whatever it may be, are misunderstood in so many ways, and that's obviously through people not understanding, you know, certain traits, how people deal with things, how people process things. And I definitely felt I was misunderstood when I was younger. I feel like a part of, I think I've got because I've not been to the doctor, I've not been tested, I don't have a label or whatever, but I definitely do know I've always felt different. And different doesn't necessarily mean bad, but I know I just dealt with things and experienced things in a different way. So I feel like I've got majority ADHD, but I have got a little segment of autism as well. 100%.
I was going to ask you, like, which you identify
really
with, because I've noticed the autistic traits. Just as, like, we live together, we talk about loads of things, like, very openly. And as I've been, like, doing more research and stuff in general, and also I work with loads of young people who are autistic, who are ADHD, or like, are on some form of the spectrum. But I think just as
I know that I'm not fully autistic, because there's certain traits that generally don't align with me. I align with more of the ADHD side. Like, I think the spontaneous side of me, the hyperactive, sometimes get hyperactive side of me, the time blindness, like, I can definitely follow a routine, but sometimes I definitely don't follow a routine, you know. But in terms of the autistic side, I feel like certain, like, social interactions can, like, confuse me. I'm slow processing with a joke, and I've known that from a long time. People would say jokes, and it would take me 5 to 10 seconds longer than everyone else to get the joke. And there was something else, and I can't remember what it was whatever. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like that's something that I've learned to understand, but only literally in the past 2 years.
Yeah.
I know I've like always known that I've been different, but what is that? My mum, because I wasn't a higher achiever in school, my mum thought I had dyslexia because I would put my sometimes words backwards.
Yeah.
But I don't think I do that anymore, so I don't know if I actually do have that or not. But my mum knew there was something.
Yeah.
But it just didn't know what.
Do you remember our conversation 2 years ago in the living room?
No.
When we were talking about this, and we did a quiz because we were like, hold on a minute, this feels very much...
What, an ADHD quiz?
We did an ADHD quiz because we started seeing a lot of it, and then we started talking about it, and then I think it was like an afternoon, we were just chilling in the living room, like Jenny having a discussion, and then I think I was like, this is us, I think, and the more we were talking about it, the more we were reading about it, the more that we were like seeing things. It's like, yeah, this is very much us.
Yeah.
And then we did a quiz together. And then, like, it basically said, like, yeah, you should probably get tested.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember?
I remember.
Yeah.
But I don't think mine was, like, extreme, though.
No, I think it wasn't extreme. Like,
as in, like, extreme, but, like, it said, oh, maybe you should. Because there was different categories, like, maybe you should. But then there was others, like, you definitely should. And I don't think I got the definitely should. I think I got you maybe.
I think I did as well, but I think the more we were like, to me, like, I think that was a catalyst, I'd say.
What's that mean?
Like that was the beginning of like doing more of a deep, like, dig through.
Oh yeah. The starting point.
And I think the space that I was working in at the time as well, like, there was way more conversations around it. We had people coming in to discuss it because there was people that started working, that I was working with, that are very open about it, and because it was such a collaborative space, and I think I was working in an organisation that was all about diversity and inclusion, and I think someone who was neurodivergent was making the point that this is also something that needs to be talked about because there's such an intersectionality around it. It's not just about ethnical diversity, but it's just about diversity of thought, etc., and how do you create true inclusion. So we're doing like training, having these type of discussions, and started coming up more conversations. So that in itself like spurred more of a discovery for me. And I think I felt in a space for the first time I was able to be myself. Yeah. I almost was unmasking. Yeah. Through that workplace.
Yeah. Where else have you felt like you've masked?
All my life up until that point.
Yeah. But did you know you were masking in those moments, or is it just that you felt that you realised, oh, you got ADHD, no. I've been masking, or you actually felt like you had to copy other people's personalities,
it was that.
Or do something to fit into that social group?
Yeah,
you knew that.
No,
You knew that you were doing that, or
no, I didn't know. Like, I think what I knew before then was just like I always felt different, and so because I always felt different to some extent, I tried really hard to fit in, and the way I now on reflection was trying to fit in was I would really, really like match who I was with at the time. And so I think in itself is like, I think that's why I think there was a comment that I got more recently about like my accent, and I literally just made me think this week. No one can place my accent. I'm German, but I know my accent doesn't sound German.
That, me?
No, it was someone that was like messaged us because they was like, I recognise that voice because of the accent.
What accent?
Yeah, apparently I have an accent.
No, I don't hear it. I don't hear anything.
But that wasn't the first time that someone has said, like, I can hear an accent. I don't know what it is though. Yeah. And that made me think, was like, hold on a minute. I realised I through me trying to fit in, and probably part of my neurodivergency is like I would simulate how other people would talk. Yeah. And that would become...
I do that as well.
Yeah.
There was one point I was truly Brazilian. Don't know Don't know who I copied that from.
Yeah.
Because I don't really know anyone that speaks Brazilian like that. But
Yeah.
one point in my life, it was like, great, my lover, like proper Brazilian.
Yeah.
Where'd that come from?
Yeah.
And then like before I was like really posh speaking because
Yeah.
you do, I think people do humanly naturally, when they're in a surrounding where everyone speaks that type of way, they do, their accents do change over time. But I can do it very quickly.
No.
Literally, I could be talking to a Lithuanian woman and I'm speaking in her accent.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that is. So I don't think it's as common. Like, I think there's people that we surround, like, we're naturally around probably are very similar to us.
Yeah.
So it's less unusual. But then I've met people where they are neurotypical. Like, I know that they're neurotypical. They know that they're neurotypical. And then when I have these like conversations, like, yeah, I don't do that. That's
it's like
it's
the
very
third,
different.
it's like that third voice in your head. Like, you know what we always say, yeah, we've got like loads of tabs open
I
in
don't
our
know where the
brains.
music is coming from.
Yeah. So we, like, for me, I've always got a conversation in my head.
Same. Yeah.
And like I didn't know that other people didn't have that.
No, I didn't know that either until like I saw a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Like years ago, where someone was saying, yeah, like it's silent until I have a thought, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
There's silence in your brain.
Life. That has never been my life. There's always been a conversation, a something going on in my brain.
Yeah.
And then I'll go and have a thought about a scenario, a situation that happened to me 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And, oh, why didn't I deal with it like that? And then I would like, my mind would go over it like all the time, and then I'm thinking about something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Like my mind is like on speed
literally
all the time.
And it's like the perfect way to kind of describe it, I think, now that I know what it is more, and then I know what I'm looking at in terms of to try and understand it. Before I was like, I don't understand it. Like, so it was more confusing.
Yeah.
Because it was like, okay, I feel different. So I'm trying to fit in, but then I don't quite fit in. So then that ends up having an impact on my self-esteem.
What is it that you feel like you don't fit into, though? Like, because people always say, oh, I'm neurodivergent, I feel different. Like, but what actually is that? Like, why do people feel they are different, and why do people feel like they don't fit in? Because everyone's just trying to belong at the end of the day, and everyone is trying to fit in.
I think it depends.
Why is someone at neurodivergent feels like that's such a big thing, that's such a highlight to them? I don't fit in.
Because I think depending on the spaces that I'm in, it's like how people process and how people come to their conclusions and maybe how people do things was like, that doesn't make any sense to me in my brain. Like, how this is being done, like it's not adding up.
In a social
situation, whether like when people put value on certain things because of the social setting, and it's important, and that's the norm. And in my head, I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. Yet, I'm in a circle where everyone fits into that, and then you kind of notice that you're the odd one out. I think it changes once you know yourself. You start finding people that are similar to you, and I think that comes with age as well, because you worry less about trying to please other people, and you grow in your own confidence. So it becomes more about like, well, I'm looking for people that are similar to me, or share the similar values to me, and then that becomes less important. But I think when you're younger, when you're in that developmental phase,
I have to say, the one thing that absolutely saved my life, was being able to do acting. I think people that are neurodivergent are definitely more creative people, and to have that creative outlet where I was able to express myself and almost I was being myself in that space. I felt out of place in secondary school. Primary school, I didn't really it was whatever. I didn't really think of like anything like that. But secondary school, you're learning about yourself more. You're growing into a teenager, you're growing into an adult. I felt so out of place there. But when I went and did my college course in acting, I felt like I was myself. I didn't feel like I masked hardly ever on that course, because I was in my element and I was able to just unmask, and it fit in that acting world.
Yeah.
You know? So then coming out of that, it was a bit of an adjustment. Yeah. And I think I had to work and try and adjust socially. Yeah. Outside of that space.
Yeah. I get that, because I think for me, would I say it was similar? I think when I've had those creative outlets, I felt the most myself most myself to some extent. Yeah. And I think going into, the professional working space, and I didn't go into, even though I studied creatively, I didn't go into working in the creative sector, and I went into corporate, and I was in corporate for 6+ years, and I could see now, looking back at it, how that was chipping away at me. Because I was kind of forcing a persona, and I think that was in combination of being in a space where I wasn't represented either. I'm working with people that are 3 times the age as me. People assuming I'm inexperienced or don't know things, and you've got all of these politics in that space, and that in itself is really confusing for someone that's actually neurodivergent.
Is that the reason why you felt like you also needed to go to the doctor and get tested? Was because for people to understand, your mind works differently, you process things differently. That needs to fit into an office space. Yeah, you know. Yeah. And the managers or whatever need to understand that and could potentially, if you need, make adjustments for you.
Yeah. So, because the reason why I ended up going about,
I think you do feel quite strongly. Yeah. For people to be able to, children and people to be able to get tested. Yeah. Some people don't care, but other people do.
It's not even. It's just because the system that's been created, and that because there's still these misconceptions and these assumptions in the workspace. So I'm all about being able to learning to advocate for yourself to make your life as easy as possible. And I think as someone who's also from a different ethnicity as well, working again in a lot of spaces when it comes to work, being the only black person or the only ethnic person, there's the own stereotypes that come with it, being a black woman, or being assumed to be a black woman, even though I fully know that I'm a mixed woman. In a lot of spaces, I don't even get my mixed ethnicity doesn't even get acknowledged. I just get categorized as a black woman, because, and the intersectionality that comes with that, because there's a cultural influence that kind of also makes you think differently and process things differently, and creates a different perspective. But then it's also that, okay, no, I also am different in terms of how I process, and then having to advocate, because there's a lot more understanding for people that I find anyways, because I can perfectly talk about the most recent experience that I've had at work. There was a woman, we have a open desk policy, a hot desk policy. You have to book a seat. Yeah. And I booked a seat that was free to book. And then I get a message for someone to ask me to change where I'm sitting once again.
Why?
So this happened before, And I was like, okay, that's fine. And then this happened again. So it was like, on the day that this person was in, I was like, okay, I'm happy to accommodate this. But on the other days, I pre-booked it. So if you need that seat, I suggest that you pre-book it. It's
First come, first serve.
first come and first serve, yeah. And I said it very like diplomatically, but I was like, there's a reason why I want to sit at that seat when I'm in the office, because it's noise, like it's less noise, it's less distracting, etc., etc. I never got a message. This person then went to my manager, right? And then my manager's then sent an email saying like, oh, Vanessa's going to move. So he's just moved, like basically forced me to like kind of move. And the person that kind of made that ask was, the reason why they said was because of their neurodivergency. It's like an access to work thing. And in my mind, I was thinking,
you blocked that seat out then. Why
exactly.
Why is it open and then now
exactly.
now it's a whole kerfuffle?
Exactly.
Sorry, but your organisation skills was rubbish. So you need to work that out. Why are you making it now something
exactly.
that's my problem?
My point also with that is like my manager not once thought about like messaging me in that process to say like, hey, can you kind of blah blah blah. Didn't really think that maybe there was a reason that as to why I wanted to sit there
at that point,
as my neurodivergence.
At that point, did you have the certificate?
This happened like 3 weeks ago, love.
Oh. Girl, you need to start making adjustments. You need to start demanding your adjustments because.
But this is the difference.
Because that was your adjustment. Like you had the same issue. Obviously, you both have ADHD, whatever, and you struggling with the noise, and that was a good space to sit. But
because like all I said in my message back was like I do prefer sitting in this seat. Like there's a reason why I'm choosing this seat. Whatever. And I think it's just the fact that
the lack of communication.
It was the lack of communication, and then the fact that my manager didn't even bother to check in because like maybe it's the same reason, and then you could have like at least had a conversation. It's like, is there an access? You've just basically assumed because the other person said access to work needs, but there's no official, like, if that's an access to work need, then it should be blocked out by HR on the spreadsheet, as in this is this person's seat, like please do not sit there.
Yeah, you're lucky.
You know, but
they're lucky I was not in that space because my neurodivergent is I'm blunt. I'm someone that just says what I think. And I've learned to adjust that for different spaces, but I would have been way more direct. With that.
But the point that I was making with that is like the difference between how I was treated as a neurodivergent person, and I do think as a neurodivergent person that might be of ethnic or minority, because there was almost an automatic assumption that I can just be easily accommodated.
Yeah.
Over someone that was like, well, obviously this person was like white British, or whatever. And there was not at one point was that like, okay, maybe they're dealing with the same thing. Let's have a conversation about it. Let's find a solution. My manager literally just went like,
and I think that's the lack of education with neurodivergency, and I think even someone that has had the assessments, there's not a meeting or a check-in, like how are you dealing, how are you in this space, is there anything that we can do to shift things for your needs? Like there's no meeting or anything that people, you're just kind of like, okay, certificate, and then you're left alone and you're kind of treated, not that everyone needs special treatment, but if someone's come to you and said, I have this, I potentially struggle with certain things and I process things differently, wouldn't you want to understand that and check in with that person?
Yeah, so like not to kind of taint like when I first said it, like I did get those questions, and it was like, okay, blah blah blah, and I was like, to be honest, I'm just figuring it out, because at this moment in time I still don't know what my adjustments are, because I've masked for so long in the space of work, and like kind of figured it out, you know, and made do,
So is that
there's
essentially you're still masking, or is it something that you've just grown to adapt? Because there's difference between masking is you're doing it but you're struggling, and then someone that has just learned to adapt and is actually okay with doing that now. There is a difference. Where are you with that?
I think more so on the adapting, because that's just how I've had to deal with it.
Yeah.
Because it just
is that a good thing? Is that in terms of like a strength, like it's making
I think
you stronger?
I think it's a strength. But sometimes it can also cause me not knowing not knowing how to ask for help when I do get to that point where it's like, oh, actually, I'm struggling. So, like, in some sense, it's a strength overall, because it's turned me into a really strong problem solver. With someone that has like a can-do attitude, whereas I think some people who don't have that, who do have neurodivergency and don't have that, they're like, I can't, and then they need a lot of hand-holding and a lot of help. So yes, it's helped me with like building certain tools, but then on the flip side is like sometimes I don't know how to what to ask for when I do struggle.
I think
because I don't know what would actually
I'm
help
the same. I think I don't realize I'm struggling until I'm at the like highest point of struggling. So I don't know how to identify when I actually do need help, and I've had that for my whole life. So I've been very independent and been problem solving independently like my whole life, and I think that is a part of also ADHD, not knowing when to ask for help and being quite independent in who you are individually.
But I think sometimes it's like, do you not feel that sometimes that isn't serving you in the best way?
100%. Sometimes it does serve me, but other times it doesn't. And it's just trying to balance it out and work out, okay, what can I actually do for myself, and what do I actually need to ask someone for support. And I think some people are on the other way. They cannot figure and do anything for themselves. They always need the support of someone else. And I'm not gonna lie, I'd rather it be on my end. Where I because I don't want to always rely on someone.
Do you feel that having a certain understanding of, okay, I do identify with being neurodivergent, I do believe that some of this kind of fits with me, and then doing your own research and learning how other people kind of deal with it is helpful for you? Or are you someone that's very much like, I am who I am, I know that I'm different, and I'm just going to continue to be I am
who I am, I know that I'm different, and this is who I am. I feel like the first time I actually identified that I had ADHD was through a Facebook page. It was someone that was like a content creator on Facebook, and she has ADHD, and she was basically explaining her traits and what like of someone that has ADHD can like feel and go through, and I really connected with that. And that kind of sparked something within me, and it was like, wow, this is what it is, you know, this is the penny dropped, you know. And ever since, I need to stop doing that. And
you wrote a poem, didn't you?
I wrote a poem about it afterwards because I expressed myself through a type of creativity, and poetry was something that I was doing a lot of at that time. And I expressed myself through that identity through a poem. And it really did help me kind of understand myself, and allow me to accept myself to a certain extent. I always do feel like, because this society isn't set out, unfortunately, for everyone, you do have to adjust, you do have to adapt. And I think it's not adapting where you're compromising yourself, where you're having to try and be someone else, but just, you know, like certain social situations I have to just like work on and adapt, you know. It's how we connect with other people, and I think it's important to be able to still work on yourself.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone that goes, well, I just am who I am. Like, yeah, you can embrace who you are and the qualities about yourself, but we are all growing and adapting as human beings. So I feel like, yeah, you do need to work on yourself in some assets, and you're not all perfect.
Yeah. I have another question. So, because you kind of mentioned that you do sort of identify with some of the autistic traits, and stuff, are you still like on that journey to kind of uncover like what that looks like? And
I don't think I'm too phased. Like, I think when the penny dropped about the ADHD thing, that was really like oh wow, that was like a weight off my shoulders. You know, something I've been carrying for so long, like not understanding like how I operate, you know, and why potentially I struggle in certain like elements in my life, whether that's socially or whether that's just like not feeling validated for the thing, like how I am and the things that I do. I think I've noticed, this is only like in the past couple of months that I've noticed that I have some autistic traits.
So still fit.
I don't think it's like half and half. I think it's just a small segment. I don't know if like how that even works, whether that even is how it is, but
no. So some people that can be diagnosed with both autistic and ADHD.
Yeah,
and that kind of creates because I was looking into that, and it creates sometimes almost like a storm inside your head, because it's very contradictory, the two.
Yeah.
So like the example would be like the autistic side is like is needing structure, and finality, and clear, like very clear things. The ADHD side is like
I struggle with that.
It's like it's kind of breeding more chaos, and it's like in both of those are like kind of living in your head simultaneously, like almost fighting each other at times.
Yeah, I think there was an element of that, but I think through therapy and other growth segments in my life, I feel like I was able to. That's a part I feel like you're not able to embrace yourself. So, and I had a guilt. So, for example, I needed organization, but sometimes I struggle with organization. So then that was a guilt, and you shame yourself for not being able to live up to your own expectations and standards.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've become a bit more relaxed with myself.
Okay,
so
that's
a sense of acceptance in a way. Like, I'm still obviously trying my best, but I'm not shaming myself and giving myself guilt. So that creates a less of a pressure on myself, you know? So there's different ways to adapt and think and just be kinder to yourself. I think I've just been able to be kinder to myself because I understand, like, this is somewhat a sense of who I am. I can always grow and adapt with that. But I've just had, I guess, a journey of self-acceptance.
And I think that's like at the root, that's been like the biggest like game changer, really, even for me. It's like actually realizing like that's what a lot of the tension, like the internal tension, like within myself, like where that was coming from, and then actually realizing, oh, it's not my fault. Like, I'm actually generally doing the best that I can each and every day. And there's just something that physically is different, that's completely outside of my control. And so like I said, it's almost like lifting that weight over off your shoulder, like that sense of like shame and like guilt and that self-pressure that you put on, because it's like, why can't I do this? Like, why does it feel like I'm climbing a mountain when other people just like do it so effortlessly? And then realizing, oh, because I'm not like other people, I just need to find my own ways of doing things.
That's it. It is also about just like calmly problem solving. Instead of, it doesn't need to be shame, but you can still problem solve.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because people think, I don't like it when people say, oh well, I can't change because I've got ADHD or I've got autism. It's like, well, no, you can adapt, you can problem solve in certain ways. This isn't just. This isn't like just because you've got this, it doesn't mean you can't grow or do things differently. You just have to make adjustments and try and do it in your own way. But
yeah, I think
you still can't adapt.
Yeah,
you know.
I think when people see their diagnosis as a full stop.
Yeah.
I guess that's the best way.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to explain it.
As in, okay, like this is just what it is, rather than
I am who I am.
Yeah, like, and I don't think that's it. It's just like, okay, now you know how you are. Let's find things that work for you, that make sense for you. Let's not try and force what a neurotypical society has created to be the standard. Let's find a way that works for you. And I think that's also the conversation I have with a lot of these young people. I was like, okay, so how do you work? Like,
what are your strengths?
So what are your strengths? What works for you? Okay. Even when I'm like trying to do some coaching with them, it's like, okay, and I can notice that like there's certain similarities in with how their brain works with my brain. And I was like, okay, would this work easier for you? Should we try it this way? And then just trying things differently way, and then just being encouraging about it. And it's not about I think it's also just like keeping that growth mindset alive, which I think sometimes when people say like, okay, that's just who I am, like that's not a growth mindset. And I hate using that term because it used to be thrown at me in this toxic environment all the time.
What, growth mindset?
Oh, it was used as a way to kind of manipulate, as a weapon. I was like, I have a growth mindset because I'm simple. Like,
I know who you're talking to.
I know that it ain't me. Like, you don't know me if you think that I don't have a growth mindset.
Yeah.
But like now removing from it, like there is so much truth to that. Like it's about keep going and figuring things out for yourself. And I think it's also just the way that in parts like the world is evolving as well. I think we are in a world where there is a lot more opportunity for even for people with neurodivergency to be able to find spaces that work for them.
1000%. Like people with neurodivergencies have been achieving for years and years and years, and I don't like it when people think, oh, you've got autism, you've got ADHD, and that's a negative. No, there are so many people in this world who are on the spectrum and have achieved so many things. Like I was googling it, and Tim Burton, who is an amazing film director, he's apparently got autism, and he obviously has created so many amazing movies, and is like on the top of his game in the directing world. Albert Einstein. There's so many different. You don't even need to be like a top world changer celebrity, but there's so many people that are CEOs that have their own business. That doesn't, just because you've got ADHD or autism, that's not a limitation to what you can do or achieve.
Because I think those differences are often the people with those differences are the ones that are the true innovators. They're innovating, they're changing the world. Even Steve Jobs, I'm pretty sure, like he was neurodivergent. Elon Musk, in some sense, but
he's something else.
But okay, no, there's an interesting, without going into another topic, what's very interesting, he's calling himself to be autistic, and he self-diagnosed himself and then made that a thing.
He's a narcissist.
Yeah, I think that's what someone was saying. Yeah, I think that's what someone was saying, was someone who was actually close to him.
Was it his assistant or something?
No, I think it was a friend or something, like someone that was quite close to Elon when he was younger, and was like, I don't think what people are realizing, like the true nature of this individual. And I think this is what I'm also saying. I think there is also an importance, is like sometimes just because you relate to something on social media does not mean that that's who you are, because some of the traits could just be just a trait. It doesn't mean that, just because you identify with the ADHD content creator, that you automatically are ADHD. Like, it's also about like really having open conversations and digging a bit deeper and having a real reflection.
A starter. Like,
it can be a starter.
I've like, for me, the starter point was I did find a content creator on Facebook, and I connected those things, but I really did look back in my life.
That's what I was trying to say.
It's like start a point, but you have to do your own investigation within yourself. What does that look like?
Yeah, and I don't think necessarily a formal diagnosis is anything is bad, because I think it can be a really great tool to be able to help you advocate for yourself in certain spaces, but it doesn't need to be it doesn't need to define
the factor.
It doesn't need to be a defining factor of how far you can go, where you can go, or become like a limitation on your life.
Okay, name 2. Okay, I was going to say 3, but name 2 neurodivergent strengths that you have.
I would say, and this is one thing that I've realized more recently in the last like year or so, one of my strengths is because of the way my brain makes connections, I can foresee things a lot quicker sometimes as other people.
Oh, that was going to be my word. The way I finish people's sentences, it's like I've got superpowers. Seriously, I can read people's minds.
Yeah. That, but also I can, like, sometimes...
Your intuition, you're talking about.
It's not even an intuition, because now I know it's not an intuition. It's just, like, the way my brain makes those connections and makes those connections a lot quicker. So I guess in a work setting sometimes, it's like, I can see the cause and the effect straight away.
Yeah.
And then I can see where the problems would arise, and where the challenges may come. I haven't learned how to channel it yet or harness it yet in like a way that kind of works in my favor. I'm still learning that. But I would say that's one of my strengths. I think I'm a really strong problem solver.
Yeah.
Like, I think, like, if something doesn't work out, I find a different way. And I think the other strength, I think because of my sensitivity, it's allowed me to show up for people in a way that's really healing for them in certain spaces. And I think that's because of my sensitivity, and that's then rooted in like learning how to be really empathetic. Over the years, I feel like I can see, I've been told this, and this is not me trying to blow my own trumpet or anything, but because of that, I can make people feel seen that may otherwise not feel seen.
Yeah, you've got a deeper element.
Yeah.
To you, you can go deeper.
Yeah. But I think it's just creating that inclusivity. It's like, it's the people that might be on the fringes, I sometimes feel naturally more drawn to, and then try to bring them back in.
Mine is creativity. I feel like that's like a massive strength and a massive part of my life, and I can definitely hyper focus. That can be like a good strength, because people say the stereotype of ADHD is you can't focus, but you can focus. You just you focus more on the things that you do enjoy. And then I guess how I see the world, I think I see the world in a different way, and different doesn't necessarily mean bad. I think different is good. So just my perspectives on things and a different mind frame on the world and situations I like. And then I guess my care for people, I think I feel emotions a lot, and I've been working on that, how that cannot take over me and control me. It's other people's energies and feelings, but I think I like having that power, because it gives me the sense that I can connect with people and care for people in a certain type of way. And yeah, I like that. What are your strengths if you're neurodivergent? If you're not neurodivergent, you still have your own strengths, obviously, but if you're neurodivergent, like, what are your 3 strengths that you have? And yeah, let us know if you have been on a journey, figuring it out, working it out. What has that been like for you? And yeah, let's just embrace everyone's quirks, differences. And yeah, make the world a better place.
And if you've got any hacks on things that you've learned how to do
yeah.
better.
Yeah, let us know.
Let us
DM
know.
us.
We need all the hacks, tips and tricks of solutions that you found work for your neurospicy brain. I can always do with new hacks and new ways of doing things. But yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And then see you guys in the next episode.
Bye.